Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dinner time is here. That's right. We're talking about season 2, episode 8 of Hannibal on Dish by Dish. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from the Baltimore Institute for the Criminally Insane. This is the Dish by Dish, a Hannibal Rewatch Project podcast, our Kill by Kill side project, where we watch an episode of Hannibal and then we talk about it. And of course, there's only one person I trust. If I ask her, is your social worker in that horse? She will give me an honest answer. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
All I have to say is to our listeners is buckle up, Chucklef, because if you thought things were weird up to this point, let me tell you.
Yeah, they're off the fucking chain here. This is literally the wild. I mean, it's crazy how much happens here, but literally how much doesn't happen in this episode, because I enjoyed the killer of the week sort of sitch, but I've also enjoyed the slow descent into some sort of psychedelic miasma that has been season 2. And here we kind of combine both of those factors into one of the wildest, weirdest, and interesting, in my opinion, episodes of the entire season.
Yeah, and also we are introduced to, now see, I'm looking at it in terms of, things are really going to get weird now, as you already knowing what's coming. Yeah. With the introduction of a specific character. Mm-hmm. But also, if you have read the book Hannibal, as soon as you hear this character's name, you're going to be like, oh no. Oh, I remember you.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the more interesting facets of this sort of unmoored telling of the Hannibal story, is that it can do anything with everything but Silence of the Lambs that it wants to. And here they really start to take advantage of that, of taking characters that exist within this universe and giving them a better chance to shine with an audience than the previous versions that were seen on the silver screen.
Right. Correct.
And the movie Hannibal, which I still have not watched again.
I was going to say, you haven't seen it before. You've seen it before, though, right?
Yes, I ran to the movie theater, Gina. Of course, I had to be there, and then I sat in stunned silence up until the end of the movie when someone is served their own brain, and I'm like, "This is what I came here to watch, everybody."
It should be that is cinema.
Yeah, very much so. And the rest of that orange mess, I'm not too sure about.
Yeah, the funny thing is, though, is when you read the book is even weirder.
Yeah.
Because you could tell much by looking at the book that when they decided they were going to adapt it, they're going through it. It's like, oh, we can't put this in there. Oh, no, we can't put this in here.
This is weird. Oh, how much time are we spending in Venice? Really? Okay.
I'm sorry. Where did they put that cattle prod? Yeah, no, we're not. We're not putting that in here.
I'm sorry. Who straps it on? And yeah. Strap on cattle prod. Oh, Gina.
I'm sorry, Hannibal and Clarice are lovers now? What?
Why are they waltzing together? Am I supposed to feel good about this? I mean, this is not a Let's Review Hannibal the Book podcast. And yet, I would be remiss as to not set the stage for how I read that particular section. I was sitting on Universal City Walk, as was my job at the time. I was supposed to observe acts, singers, puppeteers, doofuses who would do acts on City Walk. And I would make sure that their electrical cords were taped down so people didn't trip over them. And I had to review this every half an hour. So I'm sitting there, I'm reading this book at what was then called Upstart Crow, which was a bookstore / sandwich shop that had one good sandwich. And I'm reading this thing, like how they're dancing together and she's wearing a blue dress. Like I remember details from it.
And she shows him her boob, and it's just like, come on, man.
What the fuck is happening here?
And it's so bizarre because like Red Dragon, and even to a certain extent, The Silence of the Lambs are fairly straightforward books. I mean, there are some weird elements to them, like Francis Dollarhide like eating an entire fucking painting.
Well, it's delicious, Gina. We can all agree it's delicious.
But there were still, both straightforward murder mysteries, and then Thomas Harris goes completely off the rails.
It's one of those things when people don't understand their own creations.
Right.
Just, and it's not to say I understand them better. It's simply that they've laid them out in such a way that they are easily understandable. And then when they veer too crazily off the path, just take a complete right-hand turn off the freeway, off the course that they've set the character on, and there's no real emotional or character payoff for it, it is memorable, not in a good way. And
it's like he anticipated fan fiction and decided he was going to beat everyone to the punch.
True. Yes. And he also was under the belief that we liked those characters together because there was sexual tension. And the answer to that is, oh, no, there was not.
No.
It is an exploration of how you can be emotionally connected to a therapist and how psychology is a very intimate relationship. But that is not to say that I want to see them have an actual intimate relationship.
Right, exactly.
Dancing. That's after you've eaten brain together. Because what better aphrodisiac is there? And
I certainly can't think of one.
He's drugged her. Like there's a complete absence of the thing that they have with one another, and the thing that is actually explored in the Hannibal TV show, to bring it back around, is that the intimacy that one has in a therapist session of exposing how you think and exposing how you feel, and how that can be manipulated, how that can be exposed, the danger of it, and so forth, is to a degree is somewhat equal to an intimate relationship.
And after considering the killer of the week in this one and what he does for a living, this show has a lot to say about the therapeutic industry. Yes, and none of it good.
Yeah. And yet you and I have both participated in therapy, and I would say it has been a net good in my life.
Definitely. But here there is, you've got Hannibal Lecter, you've got Dr. Chilton, you've got Dr. Du Maurier, you've got the killer of the week turns out to be a social worker who acts as a sort of therapist to another character, and they're all like manipulative and kind of in it for their own purposes and not terribly altruistic, and some of them are planting destructive ideas in other people's minds, and it's like, man, one of y'all had a bad experience with a therapist at some point, because this is some working some shit out.
Yes, I think the veneer is coming off of their relationships ultimately. And this is the process. This is the suite of shows, and we'll talk about it more when we talk about episode 9. But there's a becoming aspect here. There's a lot of transformation. We're getting sections of both Red Dragon and Silence sort of transposing into these other sort of stories. Like George Lucas once said, it all rhymes. And here we're getting a lot of rhyming of that transformation element, because we open on, we won't say that we open on Hannibal making fish, but let's talk about when we go to the stables, because we discover what we thought was a horse that had died in childbirth is actually been stuffed with a human being, a sort of turducken, a corpse in a horse, a corpse and a horse.
And that corpse has a live bird sewn up inside of her.
Yeah. So again, it's a turducken, live bird inside a lady, inside a horse. And we're getting a lot of cocooning imagery, which of course refers back to silence. So all of this is to say that what we knew of these characters is one thing, and now their relationship with one another is transforming them into something else. And this is the manifestation of the week of their relationship.
Right.
Yeah. This is wild to me. Both Jack and Will know that Hannibal eats people. Let's just come out and say it.
Yeah, there's a lot of very polite talking through the teeth in the next couple episodes where it's like we all know what's really going on here, but I'm not going to say it. I'm going to wait for you to say it.
Yes, but luckily for both Jack and Will this week, they're having they're not having a protein-based dish, so therefore, Will announces it was my turn to provide the meat. And then
I love everything they say is with a knowing glance, like that was a metaphor.
Again, this is not how human beings talk, but I didn't tune into Hannibal to watch human beings interact.
Did you notice
these characters?
I love that the fish is served eating its own tail. Like he made an Ouroboros out of the fish, and I just love that. I love it. It's not subtle at all, but I love it.
No, it isn't. It is not. And the fact that they're just dancing around this serial killer because they know, well, we don't really have enough on him, so we kind of have to wait him out. And it's, again, we're going back to, it's a dance with Hannibal, only a much more believable one.
And Hannibal's like, yeah, I know you sent someone to kill me, but let's let bygones be bygones. This is all really Dr. Chilton's fault anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, when you think about it, it comes down to Chilton, and he got what's coming to him. So like, we cool. Because he wants that connection. He still wants the connection to the FBI because it's a pipeline of information and a status symbol. And he wants to be intimately connected to Will. He wants that friendship. He wants somebody who understands who he is and how he thinks. That's what he wants. And when he gets it, it's not all that he wanted it to be, at least this version of it.
Right.
So we're also, as we mentioned before, we have a new player to the Hannibal lineup, and that's Margot Verger. Verger?
I think I've actually heard it pronounced both ways.
Yeah.
So I'll say Verger.
Yeah. She seems to have a seriously shitty brother, for those who are not in the know.
Oh boy.
And she tried to kill him, as you do, and ended up with a broken arm and a really swell suit by the looks of it.
Yeah, she is another incredibly attractive member of the cast. It is Katherine Isabelle, which yes. you horror fans will be familiar with that name.
Yes, and of course, the true coup de grace, the stay tuned, I would assume, for the two of us is to one day do the werewolf movies, because, or at least the first one, I think, has to be talked about. Although I feel like a lot of people who are right in that lane have been there before us, but she's so good in those movies, and she deserves it is one thing to be revered within a genre, but I feel like her performance on Hannibal shows people she can do a lot of different things, not just horror stuff. And certainly it's a much better opportunity to show her talents than, I don't know, Freddy versus Jason.
Well, yes. I almost forgot she was in that. Jesus.
I thought about it the other night when I was walking around, and I got mad all over again at the way her character is treated. It is angering. It is perhaps, I think, the thing I'm most angry about ultimately out of that movie.
Well, she is avenged more or less in the movie American Mary, in which
that's very true.
Yeah, which is I guess you could classify it as a rape revenge movie, which is not one of my favorite genres of horror movies, but she's quite good in it.
Very good in it.
And if you're looking for some pretty good kills, try American Mary.
Yes, some fantastic gore. I do think it is the best directed film by that particular pair whose names will go unmentioned.
Yes.
For a lot of reasons. And sad to my mind.
Yeah. We may just have to completely not cover that, but if you could find a way to watch it where they don't get any money for it, go ahead and give it a watch.
Yeah. And so she's on the scene.
You had said that, if I could interrupt for a second, you had said that with Fuller and his writing team kind of picking and choosing different characters from different books in the series and having them overlap in a way that they hadn't before. Yeah. Like in canon of the books, Will Graham and Margot Verger never actually encounter each other. Will Graham is just he's in one book. He's in Red Dragon, and he's mentioned in Silence of the Lambs, but as a character, he's only in one book.
Yes.
But you had said that it was an opportunity to sort of flesh out these characters and give a little more time to the audience to get to know them. And in Margot's case, I really appreciate that, because in the book Hannibal, to go back on that again, to belabor a subject, although we are going to keep mentioning that because a lot of season 3 is lifted from that. This is just sort of the introduction to that, where basically Thomas Harris creates a character who, her primary character arc is, well, she's a lesbian.
Yeah.
So we'll make her kind of masculine, and just, all of the, sort of clumsy stereotypes that, let's say a probably middle-aged to older man would use to create a lesbian character.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me a lot of Ian Fleming in his 007 books. There's a lot of intensely clumsy pointing out of like, oh, that person's a lesbian,
right? Like it's mentioned a couple times that she's very strong, and that she dresses in sort of shapeless masculine clothes, and it's like, come on, Thomas Harris.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not to say there aren't some lesbians that do that, and that's not a judgment call. It's just, I feel like he's painting this character with very broad strokes.
Yes. And here she's given a much more fully realized idealization. She is who she is. She happens to be lesbian, but that is not all she is. And how she comes off in Hannibal is the entire purpose of her existence is like him pointing at a stereotype and saying lesbian. And it's super weird.
Yeah.
But again, I think he fucking lost the plot after Silence of the Lambs. And when you become that famous for one type of thing, you can either find new ways to explore, or you go, you know what? These flights of fancy in my head, obviously I'm right. So I'm just going to double into this. And I don't think it ever paid off from it. I haven't read his new book. Have you? I haven't even been tempted to read his new book.
No. The last book I started reading, Hannibal Rising, and I was like, fuck this. When he had
put it on the paperback.
Yeah.
Gina Radcliffe of Kill by Kill in the Spool. Fuck this.
I was like, I don't know what you're doing with these characters anymore, and I do not care.
I don't think he knows what he's doing with the characters. And that's why it's so nice to have someone like Brian Fuller, who's bringing together a team of people and saying, how can we bring humanity to this not in a real life sense, but because it's an opera, but some level of humanity to it. So they're not just stereotypes. So they're more than just props to be used for weird fetishes you think of in the middle of the night, which is how I view Hannibal.
Right, exactly.
And this episode, of course, not filled with any weird fetishes at all. Because, a corpse horse, totally valid way to live your life.
Sure.
Especially
we're not
if
judging.
You force a bird down somebody's throat. And into this walks another miracle of the acting age, one Jeremy Davies, complete with the funkiest haircut he's had yet. And that's saying something.
And some sort of implaceable accent?
Well, he has been kicked in the head by a horse. And as such, he has suffered a significant bout of brain damage that has left him unable to fully communicate using words. And also he can't make human contact. And when he reaches for things, he can't see the contact being made. He has to do it behind his back.
I really love that this is such a good multi-layered casting.
Yeah.
Because he basically looks, this character, Peter, he basically looks like Will's kind of cracked out brother.
Right. And of course, Jeremy Davies playing a long series of cracked out brothers, because at the same time he was doing this, he was playing another cracked out brother on Justified with almost the exact same haircut, but different. It was so bonkers.
Like he basically, if you see like him and Will standing side by side, it's almost like, here's what's going to happen to you, Will, if you don't get your shit together.
I think that is the relationship we have going forward, is everyone is seeing versions of themselves. They are seeing, if we are to grasp from the current parlance, variants of themselves, of paths not taken. And, Peter honestly is doing okay in a lot of respects. Like, he is a caring person. The reason he stuffs a lady in a horse is not because he killed that lady, but because he wants to somehow redeem her. And in his mind, this is going to allow her to be reborn. It's not sane, but again, it's not malicious.
It's not stringing somebody up on scaffolding and cutting their balls off.
Yes, right. It's not making a flesh angel out of them or making a corpse totem pole. In his methodology, in his design, to use the parlance of the show, putting that woman inside the horse with a bird inside of her is supposed to give her a redemption, rebirth. And, that's not sane, but that's also not malicious. And that being said, when he has the opportunity to put the real killer inside of a horse, he doesn't stop to think about it for 1 second.
I mean, really, the guy has it coming.
Now listen, I got a dead horse. I got a guy who I do not like. Maybe some time in the dead horse will help him straighten out his life.
I mean, it would work for me. I mean, to go back to one of my favorite topics on this show. Imagine how that must smell.
Oh man, yeah, it's gotta be terrifying. Being knocked out and wake up inside of a dead animal it cannot be a good time. Han did it to Luke and it kept him alive and everything, but still, that's a lot to house yourself in a dead animal.
Yeah, and what we haven't mentioned yet is that the real murderer is Peter's social worker.
Yeah.
Who of course, from the minute you meet him, you're like, oh, of course he did it. Of course it's him.
Yes.
Because he cannot stop smiling.
No, I mean, that actor, Chris Diamantopoulos, he has a long history of playing versions of this. Again, as many variants of quiet sociopaths with smiles on their face. And he was cast for a reason, and he comes off very smarmy. I mean, we've talked a lot about how Bundy wasn't all that good looking and whatnot, but he also had that smarmy, I'm smarter than you bullshit. And that is what he is playing in all of his scenes here.
I mean, he'd certainly make a more convincing Ted Bundy than fucking Chad Michael Murray. My God. What?
The world has been waiting for CMM to take a swing at the Bundy.
Why don't we just cast Chris Evans while we're at it? Come on, I mean, what the fuck? Why not? Who cares?
Yeah, I guess. Although I would say that Evans has the handsome thing over Chad Michael Murray by a good country mile.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, why don't we just go one step further?
Yeah. Okay.
Why don't we raise Montgomery Clift from the dead and cast him as Ted Bundy?
Well, why don't we just raise Montgomery Clift from the dead, Gina? Okay.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
Let's go out. I'm sure he, like Jason Voorhees, has a very shallow grave. We'll go out when it's raining. We'll encourage each other. Do it faster as we dig up his grave. Yeah. If you're just listening to Hannibal episodes, guess what? We talked about how two local yokels wanted to have sex with Jason Voorhees' corpse.
That was 3 years ago.
Isn't that wild?
It
was wild. More than 3 years ago. It might have been 4. It just
go back and listen
like a lifetime.
Listen to our back catalog, folks. There are some gems in there.
There really are. Oh my, oh my, oh my. So what were we talking about again? Oh yeah, that social worker murderer climbs out of a horse, Will's right there. And of course he knows he's guilty as fuck because that's how he ended up in that horse. And he's decided, well, if we're not going to be able to prosecute this guy, I will just shoot him. Shooting serial killers has brought me a lot of peace and joy in the past. Why don't I continue to do that? And he's only stopped by Hannibal inserting his thumb in between the hammer and the bullet chamber.
Just pulling a Bugs Bunny with Elmer Fudd shotgun.
Right. And Will is so quietly disappointed. Like, oh man, that was going to be good.
When do I get to kill again?
Come on, I want to kill again. I have a thirst for it, which of course is what Hannibal wants, just not in a circumstance where he will automatically be caught. So at the end of this, I was like, and I took notes on this weeks ago. Because for a long series of circumstances, we weren't able to record this particular episode up until this moment. But at that time, I was like, man, I just want to hit play. I just want to hit play on the next one. I just want to watch them all, and not take notes, and then just watch and enjoy.
Yeah, I went right into the next one after this one. I just watched these like an hour and a half ago.
See, that's what I should do, but I can't. I have to do this when I'm not writing. I can't do my writing assignments and take notes. It's just not a good deal. So that I would say, let's play Choose Your Own Death Venture, but everyone dies exactly the same way in this episode at the hands of an asshole. Only one of them gets stuffed into a horse with a bird down her throat. So in that respect, it's kind of off the table. Would you eat Hannibal's fish dish?
I absolutely would. And also he made octopus. I love octopus.
Man, I had so much good octopus in Spain. It just was so good, Gina. Oh.
Do you ever have takoyaki, the little octopus balls?
Oh yeah.
God, so good.
Man, I lived in Osaka for 2.5 years. I got down with some octopus balls. For sure. Absolutely. So that just about does it. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write about television and movies at thespool.net. This month I will be covering Fantasia Fest, so look out for that. And then you can also find me on Twitter under Porcelain72.
Do it today, people. Check it out. Check out our t-shirt shop. What should we do for a Hannibal t-shirt? We haven't really discussed this, but we should probably have a Hannibal shirt on the site. But what would we do? You would need to tell us what you think is the right way to go. I think you'll enjoy it. That just about does it. I will give a shout out to our friends Joe and Trace. Did an episode on student bodies, 1981 student bodies. And it's very fun, and it's full of information we didn't care to talk about. We talked about the movie.
We were too busy talking about rubber chickens and all. So
yeah. But they talked about the actual making of it and a lot of the background of it, which is great. And of course, they have a lot of fun with it. And you should just always listen to their show, anyways. But I wanted to shout that out as well. We'll be back with more Dish by Dish, and of course, next week, Kill by Kill. We will be talking Amityville 3D with Michael Verratti and Peaches Christ. So you're going to want to tune in for that one. Don't worry, folks. The body count will continue for myself and for Gina. Bye-bye.
Bye.